All right, so the Bears have made a trade right before the trade deadline. We traded with the Washington Commanders, trading for Montez Sweat, who wasn't the guy that we originally thought that we were going to trade for, but I mean, it was still a pass rusher, so I'm kind of glad on that. So it's not really the player here that kind of has me questions. I'll get into that in a little bit. But we did send a second-round pick to the Commanders in exchange for Montez Sweat, who's been a very productive pass rusher this year. I mean, pretty much throughout his entire career. And, you know, nothing crazy. He's obviously not like a Micah Parsons or a TJ Watt type level premier pass rusher, but he is maybe like a tier or two below that. So he's pretty good and definitely bolsters our defensive line in ways that we desperately need. Because right now, I believe as of right now, our entire Bears defensive line has as many sacks as Montez Sweat. So instantly he becomes our sack leader, and instantly he's a huge upgrade. So I'm happy about that. The only questions that I have about this is the fact that a little bit after, Chase Young was traded to the 49ers for a third-round pick. Now, I kind of want to break this down because I get it, but I don't. And so here's what I get from Ryan Poles, right? So second-round pick, yes, I know we're scarred from it because of Chase Claypool and because that, you know, really left a big hole in our hearts because it just went down so terribly. And I see people trying to compare that to Chase Claypool's trade, but those are two entirely different situations. First of all, edge rusher is a much more premier, high-value position more than wide receiver. I don't think the second-round pick was good to begin with to trade for Chase Claypool. I think that was really stupid to begin with. But for an edge rusher, and especially you knowing that in the next year's drafts, as of right now, the prospects are not that great. So we don't have a Will Anderson or a Nick Bosa or a Chase Young type prospect coming out of college into next year's draft. Next year's draft is all about quarterback, tight end, wide receiver, offensive line. Those are the premier positions, the premier prospects that are coming out of college for next year. Edge rusher is not. Edge rusher is pretty weak. You know, Jared Verse and Dallas Turner are good, but they're not that top level prospect that you would, you know, want to take with like the third, fourth, second, or even first overall pick, let's say. So I like that. And I think that's what Ryan Post was thinking here. And another thing too, remember, because Montez Sweat is 27 years old. Chase Young is 24. And Chase Young was dealt for a third round pick to the 49ers. And people are asking themselves, well, Chase Young seemingly seems like the better player than Montez Sweat. He's younger. Why didn't you just go ahead and take Chase Young? And here's what I think, right? Right now, Jalen Johnson, we don't know what's going to go on with him. I mean, the trade deadline already passed, so he's going to stay with the team for at least the rest of the year, but he's going to be a free agent. And obviously, there's questions with why we aren't re-signing him either. And I believe the reason why we haven't re-signed him is the same reason we didn't trade for Chase Claypool, which is injury history. Both those players, maybe Chase Young is a little bit more injury prone, has had the bigger injuries, but Jalen Johnson has also had a very troubling history with injuries with the team. He's injured I think he's been injured every year, and for an extensive period of time too. And that's the one big thing about Ryan Poles. I feel like he wants his players to just be healthy. I mean, obviously every GM wants their players to be healthy, but they really want to keep players that have proven to stay healthy. And Chase Young has not. So if we would have traded for Chase Young, a man who has extensive injury history, being the same age as Jalen Johnson, why would he not just re-sign Jalen Johnson? Because that would be the only thing I can think of that is the reason why Poles won't re-sign Jalen Johnson, because of his injury history. So why would you go ahead and trade for a edge rusher or even just any player in general that has a similar problem? You know what I mean? So Montez Sweat, being the older gentleman, yes, he is, but he's also proven to be consistent and proven to be healthy. And those two things right there are what makes this the safer pick. Yes, maybe you can argue that Chase Young is the better player. However, Montez Sweat has actually outproduced Chase Young this season, and actually for the past, I believe, few seasons. And yes, Chase Young has the most upside, being the second overall pick in the 2019 draft, I believe. Yes, it was the 2019 draft. He does have the more upside, but Montez Sweat has proven more consistency. He's a freak athlete, by the way. I mean, he ran a 4.41, which for an edge rusher is absolutely insane. I mean, there's a lot of wide receivers who can't even run that kind of speed. And at 260 pounds, a 4.41 is absolutely insane. And you know Ryan Poles, if you look at his past few drafts, he loves athleticism, and that's exactly what Montez Sweat is. So that's another big factor for him. But I really believe that it's the injury history that turned off Ryan Poles from Chase Young, knowing that he could have gotten Chase Young for a cheaper price, or maybe not. Who knows? Maybe they were asking for a first from us or a second from us, and we just decided, no, we're just going to go with Montez Sweat. Which in that aspect, sure, I get it. I hope it's the right move, and only time will tell, really. But I like the move. Like I said, I like the move. I like the edge rusher move because now is not something that we have to seriously address in the offseason. Yes, we would obviously want to line someone else outside of Montez because, you know, we don't have that true number one edge rusher, that like star-studded guy there. But now that is not such a high profile need on our team anymore, we can go ahead and focus on other positions come free agency and come the NFL draft. So I do like the move by Ryan Poles. I do like the fact that we've gotten ourselves a much better edge rusher than anything we have in our team. Montez Sweat, whatever you think of him, you as a Bears fan, you have to admit that Montez Sweat is miles better than anyone we have in our team. So let me know what you guys think about the trade. Would you still rather have had Chase Young for that 3rd round pick or 2nd round pick or whatever, or would you rather have Montez Sweat like how we got? Personally, I think the safer option is Montez Sweat. Obviously, Chase Young is a more exciting pick, but to be honest, we just need guys that can stay healthy. So let me know what you guys think. Bear down and I'm out.